Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the Calgary Emergency Management Agency's update on the 16th Avenue water main break. We are here today in the Emergency Operations Center, and you're going to hear from Mayor Jyoti Gondek, SEMA Chief Sue Henry, Infrastructure Services General Manager Michael Thompson, and Capital Priorities and Investment Director Francois Bouchard. We'll hear their updates. We'll take your questions afterwards. Please limit yourself to a question and a follow-up. And I'll invite Mayor Gondek to the podium. Thank you, Mayor.
Oki, Dadanastada, Ambawastich, Tansei, and good afternoon, everyone. With the filling of the feeder main completed last night and flushing expected to be completed shortly, we are nearly at the testing step of the fill, flush, test, and stabilize process. Now, throughout the flushing process, the team has been taking preliminary samples and getting them ready for Alberta Health Services. Testing the water samples takes about a day from the time that they're received. Let me back that up. Testing the water samples takes about a day from when they are received, and it's our partners at Alberta Health Services that we rely on to do that testing. This means we are approaching the final steps of restoring citywide water very soon. Preliminary testing is looking encouraging, and the final stage of stabilizing involves slowly easing the feeder main back into regular use. This is great news for all of us. And we have more great news from yesterday. You managed to reduce your water consumption dramatically. After setting a concerning record of 500 million liters used on Thursday, you doubled down on your conservation efforts, and yesterday's numbers came in at 460 million liters used for Friday. I trusted that you would rise to the occasion because you have done such an amazing job over the last few weeks of cutting down your water usage in very creative ways. Calgarians are known for their resilience, and they're known for banding together when there's a challenge before us, and you certainly did that yesterday, and I appreciate you for it. I appreciate people like Devish in Cougar Ridge, who reminded his family to keep their showers to 3 minutes or less and to selectively flush the toilet. Or how about Marjorie in Mackenzie Town, who is opting for Navy or sailor showers, as she calls them, where she turns on the tap and then shuts off the water, lathers up, and then turns on the tap again. There are a lot of great ways that Calgarians are conserving water, and I really appreciate that you're sharing what you're doing in your daily lives. It shows the kind of Team Calgary effort that we still need to get through this. Now, I know that, like me, many of you have questions about what happened to the feeder main in the first place. All of us in the city and the region, including city councils, administrations, residents, and businesses alike, we all want to know what caused the break and how we can strengthen our system moving forward into the future. These are the same questions that are also being posed by Premier Smith and her government because they want to have a better handle on our situation so they can also translate that into lessons for other municipalities. In my conversations with CAO Duckworth over the past few weeks, I've continued to stress the importance of an independent third-party incident review of this feeder main break. Mr. Duckworth was able to confirm on the 18th of June that a framework for this review is being created, and this coming Wednesday, he will be presenting this to a City Council committee meeting. This framework will include the engagement of an advisory group, which is comprised of respected business leaders and industry experts, people that our CAO has already reached out to ask them if they would take up the important task of determining who should be the chair of the review panel and what skill sets we should look for from panel members. The scope will cover what happened to the pipe, what happened during the city's response, and how Calgarians were kept up to speed during the repair and restoration work. This is not going to be an internal investigation. In the same way that I convened the best and brightest minds in the private sector to make sure that the feeder main repair could be tackled as quickly as possible, the independent third-party incident review panel will also have the best and brightest minds looking at all aspects of what happened here, and I look very forward to seeing the results. Some have also expressed an interest in the costs of this water crisis. I can tell you that since day one, the Emergency Operations Center put a cost tracking measure into place, And all of those transactions will be tallied up once we have restored water back to normal delivery. Please know that we will be looking at our own budgets and our contingencies before we look to any other measures and before we make any other decisions. I'll now turn things over to Calgary Emergency Management Agency Chief Sue Henry.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us again today. As the Mayor mentioned, Calgarians responded to our request to reduce water usage yesterday. You stepped up and were below the threshold target, consuming 460 million litres of water yesterday. Thank you for answering our call to action. While we are hopeful that the finish line is not far off, we still need you to continue to reduce your indoor water usage. Please continue to make every drop count. As we've already heard, work is progressing well, and we remain on schedule with the previously outlined timelines. In other good news, 16th Avenue Northwest is now fully open to traffic. This will help with any long weekend traffic congestion and is good news for our commute next week. As a reminder, some sections of the Bow River Pathway have detours, and the parking lot at Point McKay Park, north of Edworthy Park in the river, near Bonas Road, is closed to the public. This closure allows crews to flush the water feeder main and conduct water quality testing. As mentioned, this work involves releasing large volumes of dechlorinated water into the Bow River. The south parking lot will remain open. This is the lot that's accessible from Bow Trail and Edworthy Street southwest. Please use caution if you are visiting the area and follow any signage that is in place. If you are planning on floating and boating down the Bow River this weekend, please do it safely and stay away from the north shoreline of the Bow in this area. This closure will remain in effect until our testing is complete. Thank you again for your patience and understanding during this repair. Please enjoy the Canada Day long weekend, whether you're staying here in Calgary or whether you're leaving the city. I will now pass it over to General Manager Michael Thompson to provide more details about where we are in this process.
Thank you, Chief, and good afternoon. We have continued to make good progress on our work towards restoring water service to the feeder main. As we've previously shared, this is a four-step process that includes filling, flushing, testing, and stabilizing. Since yesterday's update, we have completed filling, and last night we moved on to flushing, a step that is wrapping up right now. We are preparing to move on to the testing stage, and Director Bouchard will provide more details on both flushing and testing in a moment. Throughout this process, we have been conducting both acoustic and pressure monitoring. So far, there have been no areas of concern. While we are very pleased with progress so far, I want to stress that we are not out of the woods yet. We still need to move through the next steps, including stabilization, which will create pressure changes that could cause some issues to the pipe and throughout our water network. We're proceeding with caution and care. Our team is continuing to closely monitor and is prepared to respond should we encounter any setbacks. It is still very important for all of us to conserve water while we complete the next steps. Thanks to all of you for continuing to do your part in making every drop count. I would now like to welcome Director of Capital Priorities and Investment, Francois Bouchard, to provide you more detail on our progress.
Thank you, GM Thompson, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to share that we've made significant progress since our last update. Yesterday, we completed filling the feeder main at around 6 p.m., and last night we began flushing the pipe. This entails pushing water through the system and discharging into the river. Protecting the river is very important, and we monitor this work very closely with the support from Environment and Protected Areas. Water quality measurements confirmed that the water entering the river was fully dechlorinated. We are now completing the flushing step. During the flushing process, we took preliminary samples to analyze our water quality. So far, the results have been very encouraging. Now that the flushing is complete, we will take our final samples and send them for analysis. Protecting public health and delivering clean, safe drinking water is our priority. If testing shows that the water is clean and safe, and we have confirmed this with Environment and Protected Areas, as well as Alberta Health Services, we will move to the final step of stabilizing the system. At this time, we still need your help to keep water use low. I want to thank Calgarians for your help. Yesterday's water demand dropped to 460 million liters. Please keep it up. The 4 most impactful ways you can continue to reduce water use in your home are limiting your laundry to essential and full loads, only running your dishwasher when it's full, limiting showers to 3 minutes, and potentially skipping a day if possible, reducing the number of toilet flushes. We are doing our best to restore service. Thank you all for hanging in there and saving water while the work is completed. We're all in this together. And with that, I'll hand it over to the Mayor.
Thanks very much, Director Bouchard. As you heard, we're nearing the point at which we'll be able to reduce our water saving efforts indoors, but we haven't gotten there yet. We haven't crossed the finish line and the mission is not yet accomplished. So stay tuned for these twice daily updates to get a better idea of when we will be able to stop those water saving measures indoor. Before taking questions, I want to take you back to about 15 days ago when we learned about 5 hotspots. And we learned that replacement parts were needed and we didn't have them on hand. So our friends at the San Diego County Water Authority stepped up and they offered us 2 lengths of pipe, which were sent by truck. The photo of the pipe with the message, "Good luck, Calgary, love San Diego County Water Authority," was shared across our 2 great nations. And yesterday, we sent some love back. We sent a Calgary white hat covered in signatures and messages from people that have been working on returning Calgary to regular water service to San Diego County as a thank you. We included a bunch of little treats from a local chocolatier for their team. It's a small token of appreciation from 1.6 million people for San Diego playing its part in helping us. And as I've said earlier, we will have more progress and information on how we are doing with the flushing and testing steps. Tomorrow, we'll provide you that update at 8:30 in the morning on the live stream, and we'll be back here again at 2 p.m. in the Emergency Operations Center. And now I'll pass things over to Sherry to field any questions from media.
Thank you, Mayor. CUC, question for us?
Can you just clarify the timeline? Are we expecting to maybe have water back by Canada Day, or is there another date that we should be keeping in mind? I've heard a few different ones, of course.
So let me start, and then I'll probably turn to Director Bouchard to let you know why things are a little bit dynamic at this moment. Originally, we had thought that by the 5th of July, we would be able to restore water service. In going through the steps of repair and then getting to filling, flushing, testing, and stabilizing, we're now at the point where we know that flushing is probably complete right about now. They were anticipating sometime this afternoon. With that, we'll be sending the samples to Alberta Health Services to be tested, and we will await their response on whether our water is safe for consumption. Then we'll turn to stabilizing the system by easing into adding water to the feeder main. So we're still looking at a few days. The goal has been to see if we could get things up and running by the 1st of July. But Director Bouchard, I'll let you weigh in with more.
Thank you. And at this time, we're cautiously optimistic. And the reason that we're cautiously optimistic is due to the sampling results. As we've been flushing, we've been taking samples to see whether or not we're achieving the water quality needs for safe and water that meets or exceeds our water quality standards. But I do want to caution everyone that there are still a number of steps that we have to go through. And that's why, in terms of the timelines, we will be providing updates as we go through those steps. The first one is to ensure that we do, in fact, meet all the regulatory standards to be able to put the line back in service. Once the feeder main is back in service, there are a number of steps that we have to take, including turning the pumps at the Bears Paw Water Treatment Plant and also making operational changes within the system. During that time is the highest period of risk in terms of a potential break within our system. And therefore, we're being very cautious in the way that we're transitioning from the current state with the feeder main out of service into putting that main into service.
Bristow. With this whole process now, that we're maybe at a point where we're maybe starting to look back, now we're getting to the end of things. Any thoughts on how fast this has all gone? Obviously, this is a huge situation to have unfold. Any thoughts on how quickly your teams have moved to get this repaired and get us back where we want to be?
I'll maybe just start by saying we're still actively in the emergency response side of this, and all of our energy is still focused on getting this feeder main back into service for Calgarians. So our focus remains in that emergency phase, and in time we'll do the after actions and the reviews and be able to digest a little bit more what occurred.
I'll add to that a little bit. The one thing that I will add to this is that our ability to respond quickly in this emergency situation was greatly aided by partnerships that we have. We were able to rely very heavily on contractors to help us out on the repair sites. We had willing partners say to us, hey, I've got a welding crew if you need extra bodies. As we've talked about, San Diego County Water Authority shipping 2 pieces of pipe up to us was a huge time saver compared to what we would have had to do if we had to manufacture brand new pipe. So it's really been a partnership across public and private sector, as well as a lot of conversations with other municipalities and within our departments. And that's how we managed to respond quickly. There was a lot of people collaborating here.
Thank you very much. A question from Global.
Yeah, Premier Smith on her radio show this morning made a few comments on the water situation in Calgary. One of them was on the, she got reached out to by a bunch of developers, and they said that Calgary had a much higher level of leakage within their pipes compared to surrounding areas, and she's got a report on this. Were you aware of this? Was she reach out to you at all, or what's your information on this?
Yeah, before I turn it over to General Manager Thompson, who has more on this, I can tell you that the report that the land development industry is referring to is something that we have seen at City Council. We have discussed this and debated it quite thoroughly. There is, in fact, a committee that exists between industry and the City of Calgary, where private sector and public sector experts are continually engaged with each other and challenging each other on how we can have the best possible water infrastructure system. So their concerns have been addressed by our teams, but I'm going to let GM Thompson speak to that a bit more.
And thanks for the question. We actively work with the development industry on liaison between the development industry and the city about how we can reduce water leakage across the system. The City of Calgary's water leakage is comparable to other municipalities around Calgary, like Airdrie, Chestermere, Strathmore, Cochrane. So we have a very similar amount of water leakage, but we know we need to decrease the amount of water leaking from our system. That's why we're making additional investments in water leakage detection so that we can improve that going forward. I want to make sure everyone knows, though, that water leakage across the system is different than this water feeder main break that we're experiencing right now and the issues that we've been working on these 5 hotspots. And so this water feeder main wasn't showing any signs of leaking. This was a different cause of failure compared to leakage across the system.
Yeah, and the second question that the Premier was bringing up was a question whether or not the city could handle with a blanket rezoning. Could the blanket rezoning handle, the water system handle the upgrade to like how many people per block? Like, can the blanket zoning handle the current piping that we have in the system?
So one of the most important things about redevelopment in our city and any city is to understand whether your infrastructure capacity can keep pace with the growth that you're bringing on. And Calgary takes that very seriously. When we discussed the rezoning changes during public hearing, the amendments that were brought to the original recommendations include some very important ones that said we need to monitor growth as compared to infrastructure, and that we needed more information on infrastructure capacity in places that were experiencing more applications for growth. So it's something that we keep careful track of, and it is something that we invest in.
Great. Thanks very much. All right, folks, that's it for us today. We will see you back here at 2.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.